So welcome to episode 109. And because of ever evolving SERPs, when featured snippet was introduced, there was a lot of debate that it's helping, it's not helping, it's reducing the traffic that has been sent to the website from Google SERP. And we have been debating zero click searches for now quite a few years. But now we have a bigger question in front of us. Is AI cutting into conversions too? So there was this interesting growth memo newsletter by Kevin Indick who raised this particular question that AI overviews just don't stop users from clicking through, but they might actually close the loop before users ever land on your sites. Because Google wants to increase its own engagement rate on uh, kind of average time spent or dwell time. They want to make sure that the users stay on Google SERP. So, very interesting topic that we're going to discuss tonight, and we'll try to cover a couple of important pointers like are we entering the era of zero conversions? What does this mean for SEO strategies? And how do we measure business impact when Google and AI assistants own more of the search funnel? So yeah, let's dive in over to Malhar bhai.
All right, thank you. Lovely intro. And how can marketers adapt? I guess that would be the first thing that we would like to learn because the entire concept we all know about zero click, right? But what is zero conversion? And we'll get started with that, understanding what is zero conversion and move from there. First, you want to take up?
Yeah. So just to start with a very basic one for those who are kind of lurking around on the fence. So zero clicks versus zero conversion. What does that mean? So because of AI search, it's AI overviews or AI mode or whatever is there on other search engines, whether it's Bing or Yandex or other search engines. So the risk of zero clicks being converted into zero conversions is getting higher and higher. If users are enabled to complete their journey on the SCRP page itself, so we have to embrace ourselves, we have to be alert, and we have to think a couple of steps in advance like we do in chess, and we have to be prepared for what's coming. So one of the examples that I would share here is booking flights directly inside Google Travel without visiting the airline website. So that's already possible. um, for example, the if we
Dipal is back. All right. Okay, just let me get her back on the stage. Yashwant, if you want to speak, just let us know. I have sent out an invitation to speak. Right, so interesting thought to start. And say, my point of view here was more in terms of, say, entire AI driven search results are already reshaping some of the user journeys, and we have already seen the clicks part of it getting handed over, and many of the sites are seeing drop in their click rates coming from Google, etc. So if I had to dwell a little further, right, and go into little more granular details of it, and say if for an SEO practitioner, uh, what are some of those early signs that they should watch or look out for? Uh, understanding if AI is eating into conversions and probably not just into traffic.
Oh, that's a lovely question to start with. And yeah, I just changed my microphone, so I hope I am audible. Yeah. So
Yeah.
very straightforward approach that I would see here is so declining conversions even after having stable or rising impressions is a clear sign that the impressions have not dropped. There's a crocodile mouth effect. The clicks have dropped, the impressions is still there. So if your website, your landing page, your content is kind of floating around on the SERP page, you're getting a shit ton of impressions while the clicks have dropped, but the impressions are either stable or have increased, but the conversions are dropping. So that's a clear sign, and that AI is eating into conversions. Now, let's take a very traditional example of recipe websites. So these websites have been promoting a lot of kitchen cookware and a lot of organic ingredients on their recipe blogs, and those are affiliate links. So now, since there are these AI cards that display the full recipe on the SERP page itself, the conversions through those affiliate links is for sure dropping. So overall, the business model of running blog, recipe blog. So whosoever is really passionate about recipe and uh, Malhar, maybe you can relate to like yeah. So even if you are a professional cake chef or any particular chef, and you are passionately sharing recipes since 2010 12 on your own website, and eventually you got popular 3 5 years down the line, 2017 2018, brands started reaching you out because your website is receiving more than 100,000 clicks a month or maybe a million clicks a month. You started putting affiliate links in a very natural, subtle way of particular kitchen cookware, kitchen items, and whatever is required to prepare that recipe. But now, hey, the attention spans have dropped. Google is more inclined to the searchers. Google wants to make the use of its search engine very convenient, and because people have no attention span, Google doesn't want to just be a yellow page directory out there, but rather show everything on the cover page of that particular directory. That's the approach it's taking, and it's going to be very difficult for uh, bloggers and particular content information websites.
A good example. And if I go back into the brand SEO's shoes, do you think that they should start rethinking ROI from SEO? And what I mean by that here is, say, should they start looking at producing content or building the demand for their brand outside of search, right? So instead of just optimizing on their website, should they look at different avenues so that the conversion still do not get impacted?
Yeah, that's a very fair and interesting question, and we can double click here and think to it. So earlier, like 10 years ago, let's talk about 2015. How did the funnel look like? People used to search on Google, they find a website, and they read through some of the informational content or middle of the funnel consideration stage content, maybe. If they want to purchase a SaaS subscription, they would look at a couple of alternate comparison pages and stuff. Then they would move to a landing page, read through a bunch of marketing copy there, and then click on the CTA and convert. But now the content consumption pattern has changed and evolved since COVID, since last 5 6 years. Thanks, but not thanks to TikTok. Everyone started consuming those short, snackable content. And early on, it was very, I would say, shady content, like specifically talking about the Indian geography. Um, there were street hawkers, there were people selling food on the streets. They used to, like, when they are waiting, they don't have customers, they used to just swipe on TikTok videos back in 2019, 20, until TikTok got banned in India. Hey David, hey Isha, thanks for joining, and I'll just continue, and then you can also follow along with the conversation and share your thoughts or questions if you have any. So that's how the content consumption pattern changed, and eventually the ball was in the court of Mr. Mark Zuckerberg, who is very smart, who has got that art of and got product managers or product developers in his team, in his arsenal, who are very much capable of understanding this behavior, and they took it over. They kind of um, took inspiration from TikTok and got Instagram and played around with the algorithm. Now, everything, the awareness stage, the consideration stage, a lot of comparison that happens on Instagram and YouTube and TikTok. Now, it's just about going on that particular brand's website to just make the payment, create an account, or for a loyalty program, you sign up, you get some extra points on signing up, welcome bonus, blah, blah, blah. Otherwise, if you're doing your own research, if you're in the awareness stage, if you're into consideration stage, what stage of the funnel you are, you will grow the other platforms like the SERP. So yeah, there are a lot of other platforms, social media platforms, where you can consume and decide, and then obviously you will find through a deal. Depends on what country you are in. If you are in a developing country, you will have 30 minutes, 1 hour to find 20% discount coupon code. If you are in a developed country, Western country, you would just go ahead and just swipe your card, and that's it. So yeah, the whole behavior has changed. So conversions is going to get a hit for sure.
Brilliant one. And does that really mean the entire journey which we all marketers probably identified as tofu, mofu, and bofu, uh, has that changed from an SEO point of view?
Yeah, yeah. Uh, I think so. Top of the funnel is now 80% or more than 80% short form video content or a long form YouTube video. And middle of the funnel, I would say it's more inclined towards UGC. Like people would prefer looking at Reddit, Quora, or any first-hand experience videos on YouTube. If you're buying a smartphone, like you would want someone who has done the unboxing, who has shared the 30 days review video or a comparison video, camera comparison video, whatever is your priority. And then once you have decided, you'll just search the brand. That's how the patterns have changed.
Awesome. Again, Isha, David, you have been here for the last few minutes. So if you want to add a thought to it, just let me know. I guess I have already shared an invite to speak if you want to. But moving forward, and now I'm just getting into the entire measuring aspect of what we see, and uh, when we talk about the conversion aspect, you already spoke about how we can figure out zero conversion, etc. But how do we measure the lost conversion, right? Whenever, say, before the user reaches your website, etc. How do we really measure lost conversions?
Oh, that's a tricky one. I think so. There could be some ways where brands can watch out indirect signals like CTR drops and the decline of last click conversions. I think so. Those can be attributed to lost conversions, I would say. Uh, if we take an example, if a hotel is seeing fewer bookings from organic search, even though impressions remain steady, I think so. That could be an example of a lost conversion. But yeah, we have a bunch of folks who have joined us on the panel. I would want to hear their thoughts. We have Amritansh, we have Abhishek.
All right, I've sent an invite to them, so you might want to continue. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I would say this could be a lost conversion, in my opinion. And yeah, if I think so, at this current juncture, I what I can think is those who have nailed or invested in branding in last couple of years since COVID or last 3 4 years, or who is currently heavily investing on branding can outplay a real authoritative player at this point in time. While if I look at things a couple of years down the line, I don't think so. That's like if people try to fool around by doing a lot of digital PR, but I think so most of them are smart enough to do their own research. But still, if the branding is spot on, you will get cited on bunch of different AI overviews, LLMs, wherever you are, and that could increase your chances of people searching you through, and you might have most conversions. So, not investing in branding or have not invested yet and still not investing in branding would be a red flag, I would say. That could lead to more lost conversions. But yeah, David has a thought here. I would love to know your thoughts.
All right. So my point is, again, are we overestimating uh, the threat of AI to conversions right now, or uh, are we kind of underestimating how quickly the entire customer journeys will change? Hey, David, welcome. You want to pick up, or you want to continue on the last one where you had a different perspective?
Yeah, thanks. I think this thing about branding, I know a lot of marketers learn branding and branding is important, but I think it's important to understand that branding is it's an outcome for marketers to do. Branding is not something that other people are looking for, right? And if you look at LLMs, if you look at anything built by software engineers, they're not looking for brands. They're looking for solutions to things. I think branding is a pipe dream for marketers that we need to avoid falling into, but I don't think LLMs are looking for brands. I think that's really dangerous advice. Um, I have a lot of projects that are doing very well in ChatGPT, but doing even better in Perplexity and Claude, and that's because Claude uses Brave Search, Perplexity uses Google, ChatGPT uses mostly Bing, a bit of Google, but I've noticed a huge uptake, 5x, 10x uptake in ChatGPT in the last month, and I put that down to purely using Google. So while we're familiar with LLMs broadly, and there's a lot of talk about what LLMs do and how they work and how they're trained and how they use Reddit. And I have 12 subreddits on Reddit that go up to 500,000 people in digital marketing. that's not how you're going to get cited. You're not going to be able to get into the early content in Reddit. I have 500,000 views a month on Reddit, and I don't get that much space on LLM. I get more space from ranking. So if I see somebody on TikTok saying, "Here's how you get into Perplexity," I'll go and write a blog post about them, and in 2 hours I'll rank first or second in Google on their name. Whenever somebody searches for them in Perplexity or ChatGPT, my content co-ranks, and I'll be included in the content with them. I can just keep repeating it. I set up an experiment a while ago. Who is the king of SEO? They all return me as the king of SEO. I'm not the king of SEO. I do some speaking in private, but I'm not a circuit speaker. But simply by writing a blog post saying David Quaid is the king of SEO, because, and I didn't write it, I got Perplexity to write it in my defense, and it's not a very good post, and it doesn't have any schema. There's no PR. It's just a small DA26 blog that has a couple of hundred blog posts on it. But if you know how to rank and you can get there, it shows that the LLMs are not doing any research. They are not looking at any branding activity, because I don't do any branding activity. I don't do any advertising. I don't do any PR. I'm not an entity in Google. I just check the Dejan SEO entity thing to see if I'm an entity. I'm not. If you ask Perplexity or ChatGPT who I am, they find some religious speaker with this that shares the same name, or they think I'm Dennis Quaid. So I'm not an entity in Google. And I think this thing of like, brand fixes all is just a little bit dangerous. That's all I wanted to say.
A lovely take, lovely. Thanks so much, David, for sharing your experiments, and this was super informative. Thanks so much.
All right, we'll move to the next one, and I guess that is we are just talking about overestimating the threat of AI to conversions. Parth, any perspective there?
Again, I think it's the intent and what you're found for. I think that people need to retool. I was just listening to this in the background while I'm working on my Looker Studio reports. So what I do is I build a Looker Studio report. I see Website Squadron is here. He builds a lot of reports. He's based in Europe, and basically looking at traffic, pulling traffic data out of GA4, because GA4 is really difficult and it's not very user friendly, and it's not a great place to send reports. But I build reports in Looker Studio that look at traffic from Claude, DeepSeek, Gemini, etc., and then use GA4's key conversion events or key events to track conversions or sales. And we can see what content people came in on. We can see that the same content that typically converts in Google converts. So for example, if you have conversion data, I think something that I don't hear anybody talking about on LLM visibility and conversions is building competitive content about. So I work mainly in SaaS and tech and cybersecurity, but building content about other competitors or other ways of doing things, like for example, doing something with an AI tool versus doing it in a spreadsheet. That kind of content will always convert. I think just because people are using an LLM, it doesn't mean that their use case changes, but what they're going to ask is going to change. And that's why the query fan out changes. So you're not going to do anything in LLMs if you don't understand the query fan out. If you want me to explain it, I can, but there are better blogs and articles about that. But essentially the query fan out is where you put in a prompt, and I try to encourage you to put in complex prompts, like what is the best SaaS tool for a company with 500 people in the government space or in marketing, and see how tools like Claude and Perplexity fan those out into different queries, and then execute those queries in Google, take the results, synthesize them back. Because they're now looking at 30 to 50 results, then 10 results per each query, gives you 50. If there's 5 queries in a fan out, there's normally 3. You may need to rank more than once, and I think having a second, third domain is very, very important. I was head of marketing internally many years ago at a company called Chem Technologies. I joined them when they raised their first 12 million. I exited when they got sold for 250 million in 2019. Their owner is Progress Software in Boston, who's $1 billion company. They still run freeloadbalancer.com that we set up in 2015, which is like 10 years ago. because free load balancer ranks in LLM search and Google search and Bing search for free load balancer. And that's where a lot of admins discover tech. They don't necessarily care what people are doing in brands, but they care a lot about what they can get their hands on and test. And that site generated 160 leads a month at 10K lead for years. So I think that's a really important strategy. And I think it's a good strategy because if you're on an LLM, the content is synthesized on the LLM's page, so you don't have to worry about design and you don't have to worry about the domain name. The domain name is there to help the search engine discover what you're talking about, and they will synthesize that content. The user will read it on the LLM, so you don't have to worry about building massively complex sites. You can build basic WordPress sites or text sites. It doesn't really matter anymore, as long as you can get that content into search and from search into an LLM. I think that's one of the missed opportunities. While people are running around looking at schema or different things, that's something that the rest of us are just doing.
Oh, that's fantastic. Rehan, I know you have just come up on the panel. You want to share a thought?
Hey, yeah, sure. Thanks for inviting me. Hi, David. So this question, I have a quick question before I proceed to whether the rest of the part. So how many of you are actually indexing using LLM.txt? I mean, are you already including into robots.txt files, or are you just letting Google do its thing by? Okay. So I was thinking to. I wasn't thinking. I was actually, propose this to a few of the clients to add LLM.txt, including in the robots. But I thought it doesn't. I mean, it doesn't impact much because Google, including Google, all the LLMs are preferring Reddit content. As of now, I mean, the survey that I gone through last week said Reddit is the topmost, source. So I know. I mean, that's the thing I've been pondering about, and what this topic is not just killing clicks. Okay, you might have seen this. I want to know the comments on this. There is a lot of parity between like if there are like 1 million impressions and there are 1,600 clicks. That happened to one of my clients. So is there are you guys, any of you working on this to decrease that difference? Because I'm running out of all the adjectives to explain clients like how that's why that has been happening. Whenever an algorithm update comes out, it's common practice of SEOs to cite algorithm update as a reason, but uh, this parity is something I don't quite understand that yet.
I think so. David is also here if he wants to add, but I just want to share a thought here, Rihan. So after, I think so, since last 6 months, and since the AI reviews has started showing up across the geographies, what has happened is the clicks have dropped significantly while the impressions have increased. Um, and it's termed as the great decoupling. You might be aware about it, the crocodile mouth structure on the Google Search Console. And because of that, uh, there have been some experiments, but don't quote me on this. But yeah, you get in some of the queries you get double impressions because you're also ranking on the first page. You're also probably cited on the AI reviews. So impressions have been increasing, and because of the zero-click nature of Google SERP, it's going to happen more and more now. How to fix this? Your question. Um, so still, you might have to find out those gaps where AI reviews is still not showing up, but it is very much complex because it depends on industry to industry. And yeah, there are some industries where the exposure to AI reviews is still limited. But yeah, it's it's still everyone is running their own set of experiments, but that gap is not going to be so. It's difficult to close that gap. A, B, 2024 could be written in the history book, highest clicks any website could have got in the past. Like any brand, like uh, not the highest clicks, I would say the highest CTR with the impressions and clicks. Clicks anyone can increase over a period of time with increasing content and the overall list of keywords and everything of that. But yeah, happy to hear the other folks on the panel, like David and other folks who are also listening. I would urge everyone to be a little interactive, share emojis, uh, and kind of add value to the speakers. Thank you.
I think so we've been seeing AI mode since last year. You don't have to lose traffic, but you're going to have to change the type of traffic you get, the type of traffic you're targeting. Where we were targeting a lot of traffic around what, how, why, does, is. So like your people also ask FAQ type stuff. That's probably most impacted. I think it's 18 to 23% of search queries, so that's a lot. So if a lot of your traffic was foundational, and in GSC, if you had a lot of traffic to those pages, but they were one-off questions, you probably can't see what search phrases have been lost unless you look at it over a very, very wide spectrum. So we can look at it since January, so we can see specific phrases that have been lost, but effectively you will have to just move into new topics if you want traffic growth. I think traffic growth for traffic's sake is a bad metric, but unless you need that for your business model, again, I'm just coming from my perspective from B2B and SaaS, but the decoupling is linked to questions that people ask that are going to get answered and they don't click out. And so where we've seen that happen the most, we actually haven't lost any leads at all. I think Google's partially right when they say that quote unquote AI traffic is more intentful. Again, the problem with the query fan out is that most people don't realize that they're hidden from the query fan out, and that's why I think a lot of people, I forgot to add this about when I was defining it. I think a lot of people think that LLMs are use different criteria because they're hidden from the query fan out. It's really important for you to go to a tool like Perplexity or Claude and not ChatGPT, because ChatGPT doesn't tell you how it works. If you go to Perplexity and put in a search phrase like best AI SEO expert, when you look at the steps tab, it'll show you it could be searching for top AI SEO experts 2025 or 2024. Those variations you may not show at all, and some other companies may show. And so that's why a lot of people have been led to thinking they're using different search criteria. That query drift could be as many as 10 different phrases per day. And so knowing those and changing your content to rank all of those is how you rank consistently. It's not infinite. It's not like 100,000 variations. So I think that's a big thing to understand, is that you may be invisible because the queries have been changed not by the user, but by the search, by the LLM, as well as the user putting in more complicated ones. So that's something you need to dig into.
All right, Rehan. Yeah, you want to follow up? Yeah, good, please. Rehan, you are speaking. You want to go ahead?
No, I'm good. I was turning off the mic.
All right, cool. I hope your question is answered, and if you have any further thought, just let us know. We'll be glad to pick that up. All right. Okay, I'll move on to the next one, and this becomes interesting because of all the question or all the answers that have come, and David particularly mentioned about the entire see principle of query fan out, right? And if folks are not yet clear, I'm sure there is a lot of literature around that. They can look for that. So I'll dig on that particular point, David and Parth, if you want to pick that up. So because of that entire concept of query fan out, are we probably losing the natural discovery path for any brand, and this particularly when it comes to conversion, uh, because query fan out actually is more conceptually evolving from all the LLMs or the AI search point of view. So do you find that we are losing the entire natural discovery path for a brand when it comes to conversion?
Yeah, if David or Rehan wants to go first, and then I'll probably.
Okay, so there is, yeah. See, I'd like to bring up again the Reddit perspective here. So all the answers are being answered. All the questions. I mean, all the questions are being answered. Like 10 years ago or 5 years ago, on these large forums. I don't know what kind of deal they had with Google, but those are the answers, and I would blame them. I would blame that strategy, whatever the strategy that Google is playing, uh, to answer the question why a lot of brand mentions of brands have been disappearing, and why we are seeing a lot of ads in the search results. I mean, I think until 22, before the SEO update, I used to look up to like 2 or 3 ads, sponsored ads in the first 3 5 results, and now it's gone up to 5 to 6, and sometimes I have to check Barry's recent posts. It's up to 6 or 7. So even beneath those results, all we are seeing are Reddit AI overviews from Reddit again. So um, I it's not too late. I have an account on Reddit. I mean, it's a personal account. I never used it for like optimization purposes. Never really thought about it until last year. So one way to figure this out, one way to get around this is to make as many mentions as possible strategically, not like spam, but yeah, that's one way to increase, bring the brand presence. If any of your clients have lost the brand presence, that's one way to do that organically. And yeah, I recently lost my Quora account. It has like 2 million views. I mailed them and they cited some spam reasons, but Quora is still, it stands by power by Reddit in terms of all sorts of traffic, including brand mentions. What do you think, David?
I think so. Google's got a problem where it's an IPO company, and the number of people using Google isn't going to go up, and so they've been selling unwanted inventory through broad match and through phrase match for a long time, and so they are moving people away from keyword intent to their AI management of users, and trying to say, look, we'll sell you someone who knows we know what they're looking for from our AI or heuristic matching. And so they've been broadening out paid search for a long time. That's just going to keep going. I think that's the only way they can keep their growth up. And if they don't do that, the board's going to change. And so I think I don't see any changes coming there. I think with Reddit, LLMs need some foundational learning in order to understand future searches. So while there's a lot of answers in Reddit, it really just gives LLMs an ability to understand the context of the question and where to start looking for the answer. And I would take them as two different things. I wouldn't worry about the foundational classes, because anybody searching for tools today or searching for solutions is searching for something new. And so that's going to prompt a new search, and it's going to prompt the LLM to go out and run a search again. I think what's happening is that so much of the content is just being read on the home page. And so I don't know how much traffic you had, but the sites where I've seen a loss in 10,000 clicks per month, those visits weren't doing anything anyway. But if you have an advertising model, I would imagine that that's hurt quite a bit. But that's really all I know.
All right. Okay, cool. Thank you. And I'm going deeper into it in terms of the entire strategic adjustments a brand has to make. So, uh, should brands shift the SEO focus from informational queries to more transactional ones to ensure uh, the conversions are not impacted as much? Parth, you want to pick it up?
Yes, I think so. Yes and no, actually. Obviously, having those, so think it from ads perspective. So when we want to launch a Google Ads campaign, what we used to do, we used to build a landing page, which has a really good marketing copy. And at the end of the day, like we would bring users to convert on the landing page. Similarly, the as we discussed in previous answers, like the top of the funnel consideration, everything has changed. People are consuming more vertical short video content and long form content as well. So the previous parts of the funnel is covered elsewhere, and we just need to attract users to get on the landing page, and that would bring through bottom of the funnel queries, transaction queries. And having said that, the presence of that particular brand should be there on other platforms. That is what I think, to cover up the awareness top of the funnel, middle of the funnel queries and content on other platforms. Now, the algorithm might be different for TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, and Google altogether, but it's important to be omnipresent with respect to multi-modal content. But yeah, curious to hear what Rehan and David thinks on this trend.
Right, Rehan, David, if you want to pick it up.
Okay, so this is one of those depends answers. Um, I mean, if I do follow different strategies for different niches and their depending on their objectives. So as of now, my most of my content applies going after top of the funnel, as in not exactly transactional, I would say, conversational maybe. Um, so yeah, I mean, I know how you guys are. I want to know how you guys are doing this content editing in this hybrid AI model. I'm sure no one is publishing 100% AI, but the hybrid thing. So there's been a lot of considerations I'm taking in while pushing the content uh, before pushing the content live. So that also includes taking care of a lot of edits, a lot of uh, editing the context and the content. Sometimes I redo all the content, but I'm like not completely satisfied. At this point, I'm not bothered about those AI detectors or that policy of Google, which is I think content abuse policy, which publishing bulk content. We do publish bulk content, but we just make sure there it's not it looks like human at least. No readability factor is there. So to answer that question precisely, I know what I said. It depends, but um, I would just say I would just stick to the orthodox form of publishing the strategy along with diversified context. I know that I know I think my answer is sounding more complex than the question. So I just want to know others' inputs on this.
All right. Parth, you want to pick that up?
Yeah. Uh, so yeah, I think so. I tried to answer it, but just wanted to share one example. If earlier in the old traditional SERP, where there were 10 blue links 3, 4, 5 years ago, we would search for best running shoes, because at that point in time, pre-COVID era, we used to kind of reverse engineer the algorithm, and we were able to rank for best running shoes by doing a lot of things, building links and whatnot. But now, how the focus has shifted through zero click, and if we still want to uh, rank for those transactional queries, uh, rather than ranking and trying to optimize for best running shoes, uh, we need to be more specific. By Nike and Max size 9. I think so. That's so we have to niche down to make sure that it's a combination of uh, the worlds. And I would also double click on the previous conversation, which I can probably connect the dots here about query fan out. So I think so. It's the query fan out thing is doing circles in the SEO community since last couple of weeks or probably 2 months. And it has got a very fancy new machine learning name, query fan out. But if we all just go back and look at what we have been doing, we've been using tools like Answer the Public, uh, keywords people use, and also ask.com. And what we did using those tools, so we used to search for a query, for example, what is query fan out? And it would give us a bunch of different detailed questions. What is Google's AI mode, query fan out technique? What is the purpose of running a query? What is fan out in a database? What's Google's AI mode? What is query timed out? And a lot of other questions which would be part of that topical authority. And that's about it. I think so. We shouldn't go and complicate things. Already we are in the whirlwind of uh, maneuvering through these changes. But yeah, let's take a very simpler approach and continue optimizing for the transaction bottom queries. Having said all of this, I think so. Audience research, where your audience is engaging, consuming content, how are they evolving, and how do they want to kind of consume the content with least friction and with very less attention span. So it's an art of playing around with those content formats uh, when it comes to visual content. Yeah.
All right, fantastic. And uh, I guess we have few minutes, but I want to push in this last question because I feel that this kind of captures the entire conversation so far, and this is more about. Uh, so I guess all of us agrees that LLMs are here to stay, and for brands, uh, should they start treating LLMs as one more channel where they need to integrate the conversion funnel, which they have not yet thought, or they probably did not think about it so far. So it's one more channel that has got added to it, whereas they could also be impacted from the search engines. So do you think this kind of balancing needs to be done, and LLMs getting treated more as another channel to integrate conversion?
What I think here is we have to think LLMs as a channel, like earlier email, social, paid social, a bunch of direct referral, lot more channels that we used to think. Thinking of LLM as a channel is obviously going to help us dive deeper into strategizing the whole funnel or customer journey because it's going to be a touch point. And for sure, before any conversions happen through SEO or through organic channel, the chances of that particular user trying to get some information from any of the LLMs is higher, and it's going to increase over a period of time for sure. And it is beyond Google's control, it is beyond SEO professionals' control. Uh,
All right, cool. So I guess we'll wrap it up for this week, and thank you, Parth, Rehan, for chiming in and David too earlier. And lovely to have you